Lingua Brutalica is a podcast that uses ethnographic interviews to study language use in the extreme metal community. We are studying a music scene known for its love of themes and topics generally considered offensive, and it is likely that some episodes will touch on topics or opinions some listeners may find tasteless or ethically problematic. Ethnographic researchers aim to adopt the interviewee's point of view so that we can draw out and study the attitudes, beliefs, and practices that are important to them. We want to make it clear that in presenting these conversations here, we do not endorse any of their content. Our aim is to explore the thought processes behind language use in this long-running, international, and yet understudied scene. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lingua Brutalica with me, Jess Benny-Smith, and my co-host, Wes Robertson.
Hello.
This is now our 5th episode. We'll be returning to our usual format of interviewing metal musicians about their lyrics. However, this is still a special episode because this marks our first podcast interview with musicians from outside of Australia. As today we'll be chatting with Grimo and Fonzo of Cytotoxin, who are based in Germany. So thanks for making the time to talk to us. How are you both doing this morning or tonight for you guys?
Yeah, hello everyone, and first hello to you both. So right now I'm doing pretty good. I'm looking forward to this one. It sounds cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward. Let's go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm fine too.
Great. That's you.
So just starting very, very basically, how would you describe Cytotoxin's music? What genre of extreme metal would you say it falls under and why?
Fonzo, willst du?
Yeah, I would say we just started out as like a brutal death metal band. I think it's still like brutal death metal, but also we have like technical aspects. We are just trying to make the music that we love. I'm not trying to say that a thing like a genre is a bad thing, but we can't really be described as one genre. So it's even the reason why we we are telling ourselves we are like Chernobyl death metal, which is not really existing, but it's like a label for us, and that's fine, I guess. Yeah.
Kind of a personal label?
Sorry?
So like kind of a personal label?
Yeah, something people can relate to.
Did you begin your interest in metal in brutal death metal, or how did you first get into the genre and what attracted it to you?
Well, for me, I started out with AC/DC and that kind of stuff. So it's not that much metal. It's just more like I guess it's an evolution for me. I started with like hard rock music, and then I got into metal like Iron Maiden and I don't know. Then I heard like harder stuff like Nevermore, for example. I really like them. And then finally, when I first heard like Dying Fetus or Necrophagist, I didn't like the blast beat thing at all, because I thought it was like the drummer's just doing too much and he's pushing away all the guitars. But when I listened to it a few years later, I was like, oh, maybe it's good. It's really good. It's fast and it's right into the face. And that's how my evolution to like hard and very brutal metal is becoming even more. So yeah, that's it for me, I guess.
I would say that my experience with the music is quite similar to Fonzo, because my father was bringing me in touch with Judas Priest, ZZ Top, Queen, and all the hard rock music. And then I was trying to discover what is existing outside of this and to search for the boundaries and the more brutal stuff. And so I went over to the death metal music, maybe also the same bands, like Fonzo said, without that we even knew each other. And when we picked the label, like you said, Chernobyl for our music, like Chernobyl death metal, I think since then the music we create got a really serious touch, because I realized I had to do a lot of effort to make the lyrics become serious and fitting the theme. So I think it's on the one side, it's the music we love, and on the other side, it's a really serious topic that still needs attention. So maybe that's the link between the theme and the music, and that's what we want to transport. Yeah.
Right.
But I have to say, the real power of the music I realized on live shows, on festivals. When I first saw a circle pit, I wanted to be part of this, and that's still my experience on live shows, that I want to change the walls. I want to go down into the pit, and sometimes I invited the people to enter the stage to show that we are one family, and yeah, that's how I live this music. Yeah.
All right. So when you first started like getting into metal, did you pay attention to the lyrics from the beginning, or is this something that kind of came up later?
You know, we're doing death metal, and I think almost nobody maybe take care about the lyrics. It's just cool that it sounds deep and evil and brutal. So
yeah, have you listened to our first album, Plutonium Heaven? The lyrics aren't too deep for me.
I mean,
yeah, it was maybe like creating sounds with the voice, and the attention on making serious lyrics gained more and more with each record, and we also paid attention how to pronounce the lyrics to make it more recognizable for the listeners. So yeah.
But when you were first, oh sorry,
I just wanted to add that on the first album, we just, like Fonzo said, wanted to do the music we love, and it was just like plug and play, evil and brutal and fast, and yeah. Then we started this development to gaining more seriousness to the lyrics and fitting the theme.
But when you were first listening to extreme metal, did you did you pay attention to what the bands you liked were saying? Did you look up their lyrics, or did you just kind of enjoy the music?
I would say in 10% of the bands, I even made a short view into the lyrics, but I did not pay attention at all on death metal records, because just for example, I was into really brutal death metal music like slam, and those music type, there's no attention on lyrics. It's just sound, and the most brutal sound a voice can do. So I never looked into the album lyrics, honestly, at the beginning.
And when you eventually did look at the lyrics, is there anything about them, like when you looked at them, that struck you as being like very clearly, iconically, metal?
I think in my case, I would say I even looked into the lyrics to get the chorus and some sentences that will be repeated. And I got the link to merchandises of the bands on shirts when they just printed the sentences on the backside of the shirt. And so I tried to okay, that's something I read before, that's something maybe the singer was singing. That's maybe the link I tried to catch with the lyrics. But I have to say honestly, I paid attention on the sounds of the vocals, not on the words, to be honest.
Has that changed now that you've become a lyricist and started producing metal? Do you pay attention to the lyrics more, or do you still mainly engage with the music?
Yeah, I would say it's a development I made, because the bands I'm listening to right now, like Dire Artist Murder or Fit for an Autopsy, are also bands that having this serious and a deeper tone into the lyrics, and I try to want to get it just to know what they are singing, and also to get a little bit inspired how they playing with words, how they pronounce it, and that's something I pay way more attention on the music right now. Yeah, to be honest. Yeah.
And like when you have been listening to the lyrics more recently, have there been any bands like singing in German that have influenced your understanding of metal lyrics or the way that you've written lyrics?
Well, I was into Rammstein at the beginning, and I was fascinated how the vocals and the lyrics, they didn't sound ridiculous. It was really serious. It was somehow specific, and it stuck into my mind. And I was fascinated by this, that even when some weeks passed by, I still got the sentences of the song in my head. And somehow I wanted to know what's the magic behind this. How can they create this? And I think that's also linked to the tone, because the vocalist of Rammstein, the singer, he also has this quite different tone, how to pronounce the words. It sounds more harsh and sharp, and that's maybe the only band that maybe affected my kind of writing or listening to lyrics and music in general. So I prefer listening to English bands or English lyrics and vocals. Yeah.
What do you mean by?
Why is that?
So you said ridiculous. What?
Yeah.
Does a lot of bands the singing in German sound ridiculous?
It's just
For
the
a
thing
German.
for Rammstein is I guess that they are using as few words as possible. So even in German, it sounds a bit. If you just would read the lyrics without the music, it's really not much words, but they're just trying to place them as effective as possible, exactly for the choruses, I guess. That's what we're trying to do as well. You know, the chorus has to sound like really to the face and really remarkable. You have to remember the words when you heard it only once. You know, so it's got to be like really only a few words, and that's what they are always doing. It's all links,
especially
links
I would say in my intention, the few words they use, it sounds like he's commanding, and that fits really cool to the music, especially when he said left links to 3, 4, links to 3. It sounds like a marching, and so it fits to the music as well. So maybe that's creating the impact. It's less words, but strong vibe that came along with this. Maybe that's something that got me as well.
Is there a metal song that sticks out to you as like your favorite for its lyrics?
For me, that's really hard to say, because there are many words, or many songs that that stuck to my head somehow. What really affected me recently was the latest record from Whitechapel, The Valley, and I have to say I'm not really into this band in the past, but somehow this record is really remarkable for me. In terms of the lyrics and the voice and the way he pronounces the words. And I remember the sentence, you don't deserve to be one with the earth. And I just could not get this sentence out of my head, and somehow it also affected my way of creating lyrics for Cytotoxin. But I have to say there is no favorites. Band or song, or there are just a few. Yeah.
So what was it about those?
It's not easy for me to pick one. It's not easy.
Yeah.
But what was it about those lyrics specifically?
For me it would also be like Machine Head, Imperium.
Right.
Oh,
something I would always remember. Or even maybe their first song, Davidian, with the Let Freedom Ring with a shotgun blast. It's so brutal, but still, it's really remarkable. Yeah.
What about those lyrics kind of stands out to you? Why do you think they hit you so hard and kind of stick with you?
Well, for me, it's not the lyrics itself. I guess it's more like the rhythmic part of the lyrics, because I'm always listening to, especially in metal, I'm always listening to the vocals, or I'm just seeing them as an instrument rather than the lyrics itself. So even for brutal death metal, when you only have like a frog voices or something like that, it came to me more like almost like a percussive instrument, actually. That's how I see it. Yeah.
I just can add that maybe for me, I got an example for this. The band Beneath the Massacre, They got a really strong frontman. He got a really strong voice, and he likes to sing sentences in the break of the music. You just have the voice, and even if he just sings "No Future," that's quite effective. And maybe it's the same like what Fonzo was saying, that he felt attracted by the rhythm of the music, and the rhythm and the metric of the vocals. And Beneath the Massacre is also quite rhythmic and mechanical, and so as well. Also, the vocals are in the same way. And maybe that's something that is remarkable for me as well. If the rhythmic fits the music and the vocals fit the other instruments.
Have you ever had a case where you really liked a song and then you looked up the lyrics and you just felt they were so bad that you didn't like the song anymore after that because they weren't metal enough, or just you found that the lyrics were just poor?
I mean, that's maybe not a problem when you're listening to death metal, because the vocals are not easy the lyrics are maybe almost unable to be understood. And mostly of the death metal lyrics content is quite equal. It's the same. It's about gore and blood and stuff, and so you don't pay attention on the lyrics anyway. So I cannot remember there's a case that the lyrics could destroy a song for me.
Okay.
So I don't know what's about the situation with Fonzo, if he got such an experience. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't go for death metal, but I guess I can't name a specific one, but I remember listening to like power or melodic death metal or melodic power metal, some stuff like this. And it's also like a very powerful music. But if you look into the lyrics, sometimes it's about love. That's very distracting for me.
I would not say that the lyrics could destroy a song for me, but I felt a bit offended, especially from the early songs from Rammstein, because they always play with the songs and the words, and yeah, it felt a bit weird how it sounded a bit sadomasochistic, and how to gain a link between the music and torture and to force somebody to do something. It's not easy to describe, but it has this feeling how he's commanding somebody. So that was a bit weird for me at the beginning, because I was young. I was 13 and 14 years old. Maybe this depends on the age, but it felt weird for me. I remember the song, it was White Flesh or something like this, and it was I mean, the record Herzeleid or Sehnsucht, I don't remember. And I remember the guys were naked on the cover, and you see 6 naked men at the cover. That's weird at the beginning, and then you look into the lyrics
you're doing it these days. You're always naked.
I grew up, but it was from the days when I tried to keep myself covered. But it was a bit weird, but it did not destroy the music for me. I felt it was cool anyway.
So are there any like themes like that now that you would still think like, oh, I don't really like that in, the music, or it doesn't fit well with the genre of metal?
I would say I feel a bit bored about those bands that still sticking to the death metal attitude, that nobody cares about the vocals or the lyrics, as for example, and you just look into the lyrics and you see that it's the same procedure as every year. It's still about gore and blood and stuff and zombie style. So to be honest, I was into listening to 6 Feet Under in the beginning. I found it was a really cool band, but the latest records, I mean, it's such a huge band, and I was so disappointed about how they took care about doing vocals and lyrics, and for me they are way too simple. Maybe it's some kind of attitude of the band to keep it simple, And even if you're on a live show and if you're drunk, you still get the rhythm, you still get the stuff. But I think for such an huge band, somehow you be responsible for your stuff. And even if I'm not listening to the music anymore, it's a huge band. And in my case, I'm sitting there and take a lot of time to make the lyrics for our music. And somehow their lyrics, it's like they are reading them on the toilet. So for me, it's a bit weird that such a huge band has this kind of simple lyrics, but it's maybe it fits the music. But in that case, it distracts me from the music, and it's blocking my access to the music from them, to be honest.
So can you tell us a bit about your lyric writing process just in general as a band? I know this is the first time we've talked to a group where two people are kind of involved in the process. So I'm very curious to hear how your band actually kind of produces a final product in terms of lyrics.
It's also a development that went over all the years because Fonzo is my best friend, and we started this band together. And I have to say that we created 4 records, and our albums are like a timeline about the Chernobyl incident, like from past, present to future. And when we started the band and we made the first record, Plutonium Heaven, it's like a timeline of the incident, like accurate, telling what is happening this hour and this hour and this hour. And the second record, Radiophobia, we spoke about the directly aftermath of the incident. And on Gammageddon, the third record, we talk about the present situation in Chernobyl and all over the globe, and also spoke about actual events like Fukushima, for example.
Yep.
And on the latest record, Nuclear Earth, we try to create the farthest future vision, like the most dystopic version of the theme. And I just sit down, I grab books, listen to music, to soundtrack, checking movies or video games, and then I try to forge all this into lyrics. And right before the studio, we make a pre-production. So that means I switch over to Fonzo's flat and we sit down and discussing the lyrics, or we check into the rehearsal room and recording the vocals and arrange the lyrics. And for me, it's not always an easy process because I put a lot of effort on the lyrics, and then Fonzo is just marking out, no, we have no space for this, just leave this out. But at the end, I'm really happy with this relation and the result we have. Yeah, and I would say I am responsible for the content, for the titles, the songs, and the album. And Fonzo is taking care about how we place it into the songs, like autometric, and arrange it to the music. And the final step is being made by our producer in the studio, and he also had the final thought about, okay, let's doing this more precisely and pronounce this way more specific, and that's maybe the way I would describe our songwriting or lyrical writing process.
Fonzo, how do you decide what to cut and what to keep?
That's a good question. I'm just reading it, and I'm trying to imagine how it would fit to this specific riff that we are recording, or the guitar part or whatever. And from there on, I'm just trying to use not too much words, because when Grimo is coming, we have sometimes he's coming with lyrics for one song. And I'm saying to him, okay, this is enough lyrics for 3 songs. So what are we going to do about it? And sometimes it's also happening that 3 songs are coming out of one lyric. And so I'm just trying to shorten the sentences and get or cut these sentences out that sound strong pronunciation wise. So sometimes he's coming up with lyrics or sentences that just sound too I'm not going to say unbrutal, but it's it's not to the face enough for me. So, it has to work more like it's death metal. We are playing death metal. We are not playing love songs. So
of course we do.
It's all good, but it's just somehow we have to shorten it up, and I'm just always going for the lyrics that sound really brutal to me.
I have
also have a strong message, of course.
I have to add that Fonzo got the feeling for just leaving out the lyrics or the vocals because of letting the riff breathe to keep more space for the riff. And otherwise, he always helps me out to feel if there is some place for a chorus. Does it make sense to repeat the sentences? Because that's something I could not overview when I listened to the songs at the first moment. And Fonzo got the view about the whole range. Okay, we can do a chorus. And I remember that we maybe have 3 or 4 songs where we do a classical chorus, something we do less. Or we not do that often.
Yeah.
But when we do it, I really like it. And that's something that's based on Fonzo's ideas, how it works, or maybe just to cut off or leave the vocals out of the music.
We were actually afraid on the first 2 albums to repeat sentences. We never really wanted to do that. It was just kind of an evolution for us to try to go for it. And then we figured that it could work. And you can go in the studio and like, if you sing a sentence a second time, you can like double the voices, so it gets a little bit more variety, and that's how we work it out. Yeah.
Or maybe on the 2 first records, we just want to show our skills, and maybe it was based on making riff, and without repeating, and maybe the lyrics or the vocals were the same way. But I think on Gamageddon, at least on Nuclear Earth, we concentrated on really creating songs that not just showing the skills and how fast we can play and how brutal we can be. It's about how, we want to make music that's stuck in the head. And that means sometimes you have to repeat sentences instead of making new ones. Yeah.
Right.
That's the point.
So Grimo, when you first create the first version of the lyrics, do you think about how it's going to fit with the music, or do you just think about like, this is what I want to say, or these are the kind of themes that I want to discuss?
That changed over the years because I'm not into listening to the guitar profiles the guys create, because for me it's not that easy to imagine how the song will sound like. And it changed over the years, because at the beginning of the band we wrote our songs during the rehearsals, like making the putting on the instruments and playing, and I got an imagination where to sing and which style of vocals I would use. But in our current situation, where all the bandmates are split all over the districts, and we're not in the same town, we have to do rehearsals online. And I miss the feeling of, okay, I need the instruments. I need to listen too loud to the music to get a feeling. Okay, let's just put on the microphone. I just try to improvise something to this, and this changed a bit over the years. So, but now I got a guitar profile, and I know where is the break, where can I have some space for some lyrics. But I have to listen to even a real guitar tone, and maybe that's why the pre-production is really important for us. Even I have a raw guitar that is recorded, or a digital drum maybe, but I am gaining more this feeling of how is the song can be. Yeah,
I think for the last record you already had all the raw material for the lyrics when we even didn't have one song composed.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. And I'm also finished for the next release, to be honest.
Wow.
Because I put a lot of effort and work and time into this lyrics, so I got way more than I, like Fonzo said, all the red marked sentences I kept. Yeah.
Well, okay. Fonzo mentioned that when he was again. Erase him again. Fonzo says he would cut things for not being brutal enough. Is this something, Grandma, that you do yourself? Like, have you ever written something and then crossed it out and been like, oh no, that's not metal enough, I got to rewrite that?
No, I'm just because for me it's just some kind of spontaneous thing. I'm not writing any lyrics. I'm just correcting them. I'm just trying to, or I'm just coming up to Grimo, like showing him one word in the sentence and trying to ask him, do you actually know what this means? Sometimes he's saying, I have to look it up again. And then we are maybe deciding for another word. Yeah.
I mean, that maybe also depends on the content we want to transport, because when I remember on the first record, we want to create this specific timeline of the incident. So we are like framed on on times, on the scientists and all the stuff. And when we started to make more fictional stuff, I remember the song Ionosphere on Radiophobia. I think Fonzo agreed that this is the most brutal and strongest lyrics we created. I remember there was the sentence, perish or living, ridding the decline, global negation, end of the line, fade out of earth, global negation or global blackout. But those words are, we got the freedom to say whatever we want because it's fictional. And when we wanted to transport the message of an actual event, maybe Fukushima, we are framed to the basic information, and so we are also framed in the words we can use to bring it in more serious. Maybe there's the point to transport the message. And on the fictional songs, I would say in terms of lyrics and vocals, our fictional songs are maybe the strongest. Like, for example, Chernobyl, I would say, or Nuclear Earth, the title track of the latest record, because we are also able to pick the most brutal sounding words and we are free to go. Yeah.
Because what makes a word brutal sounding to you?
That also depends on the way how I pronounce the words. That's also something that changed a bit, because on the latest record, I try to keep my vocals, I would say, more open, to get a higher note in the deep shouts, to make it sound more like in the style of hardcore music or deathcore vocals. They are more like shouted and not that much growled. And that's maybe also a reason. Like, for example, the word negation. Negation. You can just like cut the sentences, or you can cut the word in 3 parts, and you can just place it really easily to the music. Yeah. And that makes it way more, as it's possible to make it sound more brutal. Maybe that's a good example for this.
I just wanted to say we are trying to make the sounds let the words sound punishing. I'm also wanted to say that we are searching for words that have like more consonant kind of thing, or more consonant than because they are obviously have like a more percussive element when you speak them. That's what I said in the beginning. It's more like the vocals are viewed as some kind of instrument, some kind of percussive instrument. Yeah.
That's interesting, because that's something that other lyricists have mentioned to us as well. But they said they've focused a lot on the vowel sounds, actually. Is that something that you both consider?
Yeah, but I think the music we created, the way I feel it, it's technical, it's sharp, and we don't have this open range or this open wide riffs or passages where just the double bass is just running through, and there's more space for growls because we have a lot of tempo changes and technical riffs, and it's not that easy just to sing over all this. And for me, it's just like impossible to sing over a gravity blast because there is no place to set some words or to pronounce something inside of this. And this also depends on the music. But I think on the latest record, we just stepped down a bit in terms of speed and notes, playing notes in general. And so we had more space to make chorus, to just sing the words longer and in different tones, and to double the voices to make it to add this chorus effect even more. And that's also something that changed over the years, because honestly I have to say I'm still happy about our first release because we did it all by ourselves. But I feel a bit strange when I'm listening to these vocals, and especially the style of vocals I used back then. But yeah, I'm yeah, it's something.
There's a lot of parts in the first songs from the album, which are like, there's actually lyrics existing. There's written in the booklet, but he is only singing boogie, boogie, bree, bree, something like this.
Yeah.
And then you read something serious about Chernobyl.
This is
that's also that's the reason why we changed also the style of the music, because when you deal with this topic, it's a very emotional, depressing and serious topic. It doesn't fit when you're doing this kind of I would say
if you do too much of like the pre-sounds and that kind of stuff, you're gonna be getting labeled as grind metal or grind metal. We really never wanted to be like this, so I don't have a problem with that. Maybe sometimes grind is cool, but for us it's not the thing that we were aiming for.
This actually kind of leads into a question we were going to ask, which is a lot of kind of early research on metal and sometimes mainstream discussion of it talk about a disconnect between the lyrics, like that people say that, oh, the lyrics aren't, meant to be serious, or that the lyrics are just kind of a horror movie kind of thing. But for you, it seems like there's more of a personal connection to what you're writing. Do you feel that it's kind of important, or do you feel that there is definitely a kind of a deeper meaning that is key to making really good metal lyrics?
I think the main tone of our music is that Chernobyl shouldn't be forgotten anytime. So just for example, I read a book. I can show you this book, and it's basically a story about a 5 of scientists that were sent into the reactor, and 4 of them died and only 1 returned. And this man wrote this book, and without this book, I wouldn't know about this, and I just dedicated my lyrics and the song to this man. And so I got this personal link between my lyrics and the music, and that's something I want to transport. If you getting into the stories about those heroes that spend their health and life to avoid dangers of this incident, you want to transport even their names, their history. And maybe I got a really personal link between the lyrics and the theme and the music, and that's something I want to transport. Yeah. And so maybe our vocals, our lyrics, basically, are way more personal than usual, or on average, I have to say. And that's also a reason why I have to take me a lot of time to think about how personal I want to have the lyrics to be transported, and which sentences I have to take, which I have to leave. Yeah, I would say our lyrics are really, really personal. somehow.
I just wanted to add that if you care about your lyrics, you're actually able to perform them better live because you really mean it. That's something I guess that we are really trying to do.
Because we also I know about a girl from my hometown, Franziska, and she's arranging this Chernobyl tours. Like you can be in a group, and she is leading around and showing the places. And she is firm with those 300 survivors that still living in the zone, and she is knowing them by name. And she's telling me there's old women that are passing away, that living there because they want to leave the spot where they were born. And so I felt, okay, I have to do vocals about this, lyrics to transport the message that still people living there. And we got a really serious message, and it takes time to forge them into shape, to transport them. Yeah.
In terms of the audience for those lyrics and your music in general, do you view them as being mostly fellow Germans, or do you think you have a mostly like international audience? Or I suppose, who are you writing for?
I think we got an international audience, I would say. But also we got a good local supporting fan scene. But I think
it's kind of weird if you're doing a gig in our hometown, which we haven't done like 3 or 4 years already. There's almost like only 50 people showing up, and then we are going to play in, let's say, London or don't know, Wales somewhere, and there's like double the times of the people, and they are even more emotional. So I guess yes, we are an international band, absolutely.
We've interviewed a number of Australian bands so far, and they've talked a bit about they've given us the idea that Australian bands find things like humor and joking around on stage and being a bit silly between sets is something kind of key to the context here. Do you think there's a like in the German live scene, is there an atmosphere which you feel is distinct from other countries, or do you find it kind of similar no matter where you go?
I would say the fan scene in general is pretty critical, a bit critical. How they it's not easy to say, because I think in Germany normally there are a lot of concerts, and international bands love to play here in Germany. We got huge festivals, and the people are able to see the bands really often if they want to. And somehow this is maybe a bit overflown with bands and with concerts. And so I would not say they are fed up, but it's a difference when you play, like Fonzo said, in another country, where the people are able to see us for the first time, and they know it may be 1 or 2 years are passing by, then we maybe return to their place, and so they live this moment even more, and show us how they appreciate that we're stepping by their hometown and playing this music. And the rest you were telling about entertainment, and I know we also went on stages with the gas mask, and we have this roundabout sign to show the people that they have to do a circle pit. And some people were complaining, hey, you're doing songs about Chernobyl and then you're acting this way. But I always argumenting that entertainment and an open heart by such a live mute can make somebody ready to receive. And if I have him in a good mood, I can, hey, we got a great time, but please never forget Chernobyl. So that entertainment is somehow it's our way to transport a serious message, instead of standing on the stage and be completely serious and full of anger. And as you maybe have in the black metal scene, like they're just standing there and creating this aura. That also can be a good thing to keep this distance between the musician and the crowd. But we like to get off this distance and to create a unit and to make the people be receiving the theme even more. And that's also a way how we love to do a live show. I love to hold up the sign and the people running around, and we created Circle Plutonium. That's and you got connection to people if they got an open heart, and I've in my personal experience, humor and laughing people can create a link, and that the link is what we need. And so that's the way I argument against people who would maybe say that we are not that serious enough.
Can't really add anything. He said everything.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, is the desire to I suppose spread the message about Chernobyl, is that the reason why you decided okay, this should be in English, particularly because you were saying before, most of your fans are international? Is that kind of the reason?
I think the people that are maybe affected more by the Chernobyl theme, like in the East European sections, are thankful that we're keeping up this theme and to transport it somehow into the world and to create a spot on this. So I think in the East European countries, we got a lot of fans, I would say. And because this problem is an international problem, because radiation does not know any kind of barriers, countries, kind of religions or languages. It just go all over the place. And so I think this international connection is also something we want to have with all the people. And I'm really happy that we got some people that are using our shop from all over the earth. That's really cool how to see how the people want to support the band and the music and the theme and Chernobyl at the end.
Did you ever try writing lyrics in German?
No,
I just wanted to add this because when we started it, I don't think that actually a band is existing playing death metal and having German lyrics. I didn't really hear about any kind of band like this. At least not a famous band. Not sure about it.
Do you think English is?
No.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Know about bands that making covers or covering German songs. I remember that I've ordered. It's somehow have some German sentences, but not German lyrics at all. So I agree to Fonzo. I do not know even the band death metal scene that have German language or lyrics.
So there was never even a consideration. It was just English.
Maybe you won't realize or recognize that I'm singing German, maybe because of the tone, but no, never. I think we have actually some sentences I sing in Russian because we have our band member Vitalis. He is from Kazakhstan, and so we try to make it a bit more authentic and to add some Russian sentences, but that's just a short passage. So it's English and we want to keep it that way.
Yeah, I saw that you even talked about, I suppose there's a couple of, you said ambient tracks where there is some English, but it's spoken with a Russian accent. Is that also part of, I suppose, creating that more authentic feeling?
Yeah, we got, I think that's some part of our history on the records, that we still have this ambient tracks to transport the scenery acoustic way. And there's also Vitalis on the spot, and he speaks all the sentences with his special pronunciation, and that's something I can't do because
that Russian accent.
Yeah, and on the latest record, we also had this ambient track, but we decided to use Russian sentences followed up by the English translation to make this even more international, to that everybody can get the message of this, because it's not easy just to rely on the Russian sentences, because it's not easy to get and even to translate. So, but I think this Russian elements, make it even more Chernobyl styled. So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, what we already did on the last album is we like translated. We had like a Russian poem, and after every sentence, there was like a English translation to it. So we could make sure that everybody understands what's being said in Russian.
Your lyrics, I mean, obviously you have a number of songs directly dealing with Chernobyl, but just more broadly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt there's often quite a political bent on some of the songs, in that you take explicit stances on technology and social policy, talking about kind of humanity using technology poorly or destroying the earth and suffering for it. And there's often been some research into metal has said that oftentimes metal bands feel that they shouldn't discuss kind of political themes in metal, or that metal should be apolitical. I'm just curious, is this something you've encountered, or is it something you do you feel any pressure in this area, or do you feel it's absolutely a good venue for discussing topics like this? Death metal, I mean.
It's kind of hard for me to understand the point that when someone says you are not, or you're trying to be political, because if you're in this world and you're taking part in our community of every humans, you always are political. You have an opinion about something, and you're talking about it. Otherwise, if you're not, you're a fucking robot. I don't know. So I would say, yeah, it's kind of important for us to do. You can, of course, exaggerate it and tell people to think what's good and what's wrong. We are not commanding people to say, okay, nuclear energy power plants are bad or something. I'm a fan of renewable energy like solar and wind stuff, but we are not commanding people to think about this. But we are trying to make them aware of what the consequences are of using a power like nuclear energy, how dangerous it can be. And if you have all over the globe like 1,000 power plants with nuclear energy, sometimes it will happen that in one of those it's going wrong. It can be in any country, You can't really control it. Somehow it has to happen.
And still there is no final storage for all the nuclear waste, and humanity is diluting the nuclear waste into the ocean. Especially when you consider the fact of Fukushima, how they dilute the reactor, the water into the sea, and especially I would say that we rely, or we concentrate on the fact that we want to report the things from Chernobyl, to transport the information, and as much as information you can get, you gain the possibility to have your own decision. You can make a decision about this, and especially in the Chernobyl theme, there is a thin line of keeping the balance between, of the one side, you having the government and how they try to cover all this and to hide this array from the population, to tell them, hey, everything is all right, you don't have to be worried about something. And on the opposite, you have these soldiers, the liquidators that were sent into the fire, the firemen that have to remove these graphite with their bare hands from the roof, and that just acted like heroes. They wasted their own health and life, and there's to keep the balance between reclaiming or to criticize the government, and on the other side to keeping the memory about those heroes. And that's also the reason why there's never a decision, this is wrong, this is right. It's about transporting information And that's also the reason why we're adding notes to the lyrics, just to write in 3 or 4 sentences what the song, the title is about, and what's the meaning of it. And that's also a fight between in our band, because the notes are also large, but somehow we made it to minimize them on the essence.
We had a prior interview with someone who doesn't have explicitly kind of political messages in their lyrics, and they said that the reason why was that they thought writing really, really good metal lyrics and writing good political lyrics were 2 separate skills, and they were only confident in one of them. Do you find yourself agreeing with that at all? Do you believe they're 2 skills, or have they always just been kind of one for you?
I think it's not easy to sort out or to separate, because, for example, there is the song Black Mammoth from Fit of an Autopsy. And if you just pick the song, if you just pick the lyrical content, it's not easy to get the message of this. But when you look at the music video, how they transport the message about the pipeline that is being constructed through the land of the locals, and if I remember correctly, the Indian people that are living or settled there for all the ages, and they're fighting for their hometown, and then you're gaining the message. It's the way how you transport it, like a metaphor, like you're using words and this kind of an animal, a mammoth, and then you can use this to transport the things you want to say. But that's something you have to create in the heads of those who listen or those who view the music video. And for me, it's not easy to separate, okay, this is now political, this is not political. It's always the way how you play with words, how you act to this. And that demands that the people are open for this and try to want to gain access to it, to the project, and to the theme as well. And what I want to say, it's always the way to transport, how to transport this. And that makes it even possible, even if we take a fictional theme, like a dystopic theme, the farthest future, like Fonzo said, the consequences continue the way we are acting right now, and can be an information if we put this right into the actual events, like weather events and the catastrophes that are been happening all over the earth. And you can just put the finger on this. This always will be happen. And if we act like this, it will happen even more and even more harsh and more destructive. And it's always the way how you transport this, and how you use the minds and the hearts of the people that listen to it.
Interesting. What about, speaking of transporting, and putting your heart into it, we did notice that your lyrics rarely use the word I. Instead, you kind of describe scenes and stories. Is this something that's intentional, and is it something you feel is particularly metal?
We switched the perspective, and I think on the first record we just have like a reporter that is in the moments, like an person who is watching and describing and reporting after it. And when you look on our album artwork, especially on the 3rd and the 4th album, maybe for example the 3rd album, you just see a hand of somebody who is shielding himself from the burning reactor, like he is laying on the ground. And so in the lyrics we try to switch the perspective, to take the I person, like to switch into this guy, or into the people who are suffering this, to gaining their view of the things, how they look. Or maybe on the songs Radiophobia or Fallout Progeny, we try to create the view from the children. If they coming on Earth and suffer this consequences from the radiation, like deformed body parts or sickness or illness, and they have nothing to deal with this. They just came on Earth. So we try to, somehow we want to switch the perspective to gaining this I person. but we have to handle this with care because it's serious, and we don't want to offend anybody. But that's the reason to switch to gaining this view from those people who suffer or living in this situation.
I would say in short, our lyrics just have like a historic and descriptive character, and you can't really go with a lot of this because no one of us was there. Of course, we are sometimes taking people like Grimo mentioned from the guy from the book. Then sometimes you could maybe use the word I a little bit more, but it's just something that we are not doing. I don't know why. We're just getting used to it, to have this descriptive character of the whole scene. You know.
Yeah. Just to add one example, there's also a book I read. It's Chernobyl Prayer, and it's about poems and stories that happened right after the incident. And there's also the story about a fireman that went into. He had the first contact with the burning reactor, and he had to remove the graphite, and he suffered a lot of radiation exposure in this moment. And in this book, there is a story about his wife. They were awaiting a baby, and he was suffering the acute radiation illness. So his body was burning from the inside, and he died, I think, 3 or 4 weeks after this. And to read this, to have this information about his last weeks and the way the wife wants to keep him alive and to keep trust in him and in the baby that will came on earth. I think that are really personal and deep informations. So I think that's gaining for me the trust to take over, to take part in this I person, because those informations for me, they sound real and authentic. So somehow I dare to take over this perspective, but not that much. But the more information you get, the more responsible you feel for it. Okay, I know this, and I want that the people also know this and won't forget. And there's a quote: if you don't know the names of the heroes, they disappear like they never existed. So that's something, maybe that's the main vibe I want to transport with the lyrics, and I'm happily we can do this right so far with our 4 records.
So if I understand correctly, is it based on whether or not the story is a personal one, or if it's more informational, that's the basis of your decision to either use I or use a more reporter perspective? Yeah,
especially when you consider that we got this dystopic content on the latest record. Of course, like Fonzo said, nobody lived in the future, and it's not easy to pick information from something that it's not happened. So that makes it even more make it easier to take this I person, because you got freedom. You can go wherever you want, and it's purely fictional. And so it's like storytelling in that case, and instead of just reporting and transporting the information. That's the main difference. So I think, in my opinion, the more fictional you are, it's easier to take this I person. That's something I would say.
We noted also, we've talked actually today with you about how you think the multisyllabic words work really well for, fitting with the music. But we noticed just in general that you don't just use big words, you use very, very difficult words. There's a lot of scientific vocabulary, a lot of terms that, on one track on Your Own Breath, you had the term clivus and affected war zones. And I had never seen that word for part of the skull, I believe, in my entire life. And I'm just wondering, is there an effort to use like rare or obscure vocabulary? And if so, I suppose what motivates you to do that?
I think sometimes it's also good to keep it a bit mystic, like not easy to get, to make it more interesting for research. So if the people don't get the point of the lyrics at the first moment, maybe they feel motivated in doing research, or like in your case, asking the question, hey, so what's the point? Never heard about this. And that's also the reason why we added some notes to the lyrics. And maybe that's the advantage of our album. So if you want, buy the album, because we have these notes, and I think these explanations are pretty necessary. And especially about the song Urine Breath, it's inspired by a lung disease that occurred here in Germany, because there's a town in Schneeberg, it's called, and they were gaining urine for Soviet Union, and those miners suffered this lung disease, and that's basically also this metaphor, urine breath, like breathing out the urine. And that's also a song about these local miners. And I remember that I got some meetings with some geological researchers here in my hometown to speak about this disease and how it occurred. And I put a lot of effort to create the lyrics of Urine Breath. And maybe to getting in contact with these researchers, it's the reason why it somehow sounds scientific, or I'm using words that are not maybe you've been used in general. So maybe that's also a reason.
I think sometimes you are also just doing the lyrics in German at first, and then you're searching for the translation. That's how maybe if you're using, like, because German is our native language, we are using maybe some complicated words, and then if you translate them, they sometimes by accident can get even more complicated.
When you translate a word, when you look up the translation and there's multiple options, how do you choose which one is like the most metal or the best for a song?
I think it depends on the way how to pronounce it. I think how it sounds, and it also depends on the vocal style you want to use. If it's a shout, if it's a growl, if it's an inhale voice. So if we use a vocal style that's maybe more brutal and hardly to understand, you can pick the word that looks better in the lyrical sheet. So, but if it should be sound cool, because it should be understandable, you pick the word that sounds the best. And that's also the reason why we sometimes changed the words in the studio when we try different vocal styles, and then change over maybe to a different word.
So we noticed, in addition to the kind of complex scientific vocabulary, you also occasionally use some Latin expressions. So as in the track Radiatus Generis, or on Lupus Aurora, where you say homini homo lupus natura sit deus radiat lupus in regem, which I believe is man is wolf to man, nature is God, and wolf returned to the kingdom.
Yes.
So what is the effect of this?
I think we felt attracted by using this Latin words because they sound pretty sharp, harsh, strong, and that fits the vocal style we used for the songs to make it sound pronounced more higher and understandable. And I could not tell the feeling by using Latin words, but somehow it feels cool. And it's somehow, I don't know if Fonzo can describe this better, but for me it's just sounds strong. And especially Lupus Aurora, it's the song about the animal resettlement to Chernobyl and how the wolf is returning to Chernobyl. And the wolf as an animal, as a symbol, is so strong, and so it felt pretty cool and fit very cool to use Latin words to this to the lupus. And so in that case, it went out pretty cool. And especially we just used this in the chorus. And so it stuck in the head even more. And I'm really happy how we end up with and how we use the sentences.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because you have asked a little while back why we are not using German lyrics, and I think if you pronounce Latin words right, they sound a lot or kind of similar to German. Like Grimo already said, they sound really sharp. Like for example, that Natur sit Deus. It sounds really kind of commanding and really hard somehow. And when he did this line in the studio, we were all like, "Oh man, this sounds so crushing." We didn't. It was almost like a Rammstein effect for us because it's really kind of German and hard, to the point. Yeah.
Especially with radiatus, we don't say radiatus, we say radiatus. And if you pronounce it that way, it sounds even more crushing. And that's also a cool effect. And gaining a bit more, I would say, a bit more glory to the vocals a bit. And it fits pretty well, especially for Lupus Aurora. It's because it's for me, it's like maybe it's affected a bit of our lifestyle that we, like Fonzo said, he would concentrate on the economical way of life, or in my case, or in our case, we follow up the vegan, the plant-based diet. So if you consider nature as something holy and something really adorable, you want also to transport this message. And the wolf as return of nature is a really good symbol. And maybe this also affected the choice of picking this style of vocals and Latin words. And yeah.
So how did you go about actually choosing these specific Latin phrases? Did you, for instance, translate them, or did you find them in a text or something?
I heard audio story in German, and it was called Evermind, and this story was starting with the sentence lupus homini homo lupus, a wolf is a wolf to its man itself. Like you translated it already. And then I was gaining interest into this because it's stuck in my head, and we just used this sentence, and then I just wrote the lyrics in German and then translated them into Latin and English, and then we picked the sentences, and it went out pretty cool. Yeah.
We also noted that you occasionally make up your own words. Like on Radius Generis, you have the phrase life's elimination, and you have songs like Chernobyl and Atum, which I believe is like Adam and Tomb together. Given that, extreme metal is considered serious and heavy and brutal, I'm just wondering when you decided to put wordplay and make up words, is that something that you feel is very particular to your music? And do you think that there's a place for humor and wordplay in a genre like extreme metal?
I have to be honest, and it's kind of tradition in our music or on our records to have this kind of wordplays and playing with words. And in my opinion, it makes this project and this band, this theme, Chernobyl death metal, even more special. And to realize, okay, this word never existed, but we use it, so somehow the people can rely the song title to us. And I remember we started right away on the first album with the opening song. It was called React or Recede, and we had React and or in huge letters, so you can read reactor, recede.
Right.
And that's something I was just fascinated with. And then we just built up our specific universe, like that's our stories and our song titles. and especially Chernobyl, and it's a place that maybe it's affected by the metro stories, where the people were forced in the after the nuclear winter in Russia and Moscow to stay under the earth, and then not able to going back to the surface because there's too much radiation exposure over there. And that's also my illusion of creating this place, Chernobyl, where the people living in Chernobyl but under the surface. And yeah, I like to play with especially nuclear. We had the discussion if we use nuclear with K or with a C. Nuclear nuke with K to have this bomb inside, or a C for the atomic relation. And I'm just glad we picked the K and we used this, because the people are not really sure how to pronounce nuclear. Nuclear, it's not easy to say, but we have this global dystopic version, and so I'm glad the people appreciate that we took this title. And yeah, it's cool to play with words, but it's not easy to we are a 5-piece band, and it's not easy to forge all opinions and that everybody agrees. But I appreciate we got a pretty democratic type of band and character. So we try to find the best solution for everybody. And yeah, but some word plays are not that good, so we sort it out together.
Yeah, sometimes it just occurs that Grimo is maybe forging a word that is too far, or if you hear it the first time, you don't really know what we mean with it. And trying to avoid this situation. So if you have like a radiophobia or nuclear, I guess you can already know, or if you hear it the first time and you already know what kind of direction it is. So you don't want to go into a word that is kind of too complicated to understand in the first place.
Sure. But sometimes there's only a word like Gammageddon. Nobody knows what it is, but you have gamma for the gamma rays and Armageddon, so it's together and it sounds just brutal. So I'm happy we just picked this one. That's also okay.
So, going on with our discussion of wordplay, occasionally you use aspects associated with poetry, like rhyme and alliteration. Like on Out Earth, for instance, you have lines like father's dead son, the end has come, humans are down, remove the sham crown. And ionosphere, you have perish all living, riddling the decline, global negation, end of the line. So is this kind of rhyming intentional?
Yes, and it also depends on the character of the music in that moment. If it have this chorus character or something you want to repeat, but it also depends on if the vocals, the lyrics supporting the music. It's not just okay. Now we have to do a chorus because the chorus could be cool. And it always the song comes first. The song comes first, and if there is place for something to repeat, I always, like Fonzo said, I have a huge sheet of lyrics for one song, and there are also rhymes in it. There are open passages in it. There are sentences of just 2 or 3 words, and then we pick which one could fit. And I remember we just cut off a sentence and moved it over to other song because it fits there. And so we just switch between the sheets and look which sentence could fit the passage the most.
Yeah, it's also this issue is also relating to the way the guitars or the riffs are composed. So if you play technical death metal, you have like a lot of riffs that they are going like, let's say 10 seconds, and there's no repeating pattern in it. It's all like weird, a lot of different notes in it. But we also have a lot of riffs. Well, we have like it's going like 20 seconds, but we have a pattern in this that's coming like every second, And in this kind of riffs, I guess it makes a lot more sense to use this kind of rhyming lyrics. That's something natural, I guess. Yeah.
We also noted that across your lyrics, there's obviously a lot of scenes of death and misery that are discussed, but outside of your first release, there's not much explicit gore. Is this something that you've tried to avoid intentionally?
Yes, I think gore is something that it's pretty common in the death metal scene, and maybe it's the feeling of to make something own, something special. And especially radiation, if you take the radiation sickness, it's nothing gory. It's something that it's a process that is hurting from the inside, like burning from the inside. And if you get too explicit, you could gain this zombie or mutant character. Of course, we all played this video games like Metro or Stalker to gaining this atmosphere, but we don't want to be linked to this. I remember a discussion we had at the first album when we wrote the lyrics. Amen, that sounds too much like Stalker or Metro, and that seems to be too easy to just, hey, I played a video game, so now I describe what I played. It deserves more effort to and forging information into opinion, a meaning. And I have to say, I feel bored by all this gory stuff, and it's something. Yeah, I'm not into the zombie movies and monster stuff, and that's something that don't fit my personal attitude, and it doesn't fit the Chernobyl theme. So that was never a motivation to use this gory stuff. And I remember, if we have gory stuff, I think on Radiatus Generis and Anti-Genesis a bit, but just a few.
Because of your really personal connection to the story of Chernobyl, are you ever concerned about using gore that will potentially offend?
Yes, I think too much gore would also offend maybe survivors or people that deal with survivors, that maybe feel attracted by the music project and listen to or looking into the lyrics, and then you just read stuff about gory content. And I think that's not the right way to attach to those people, to getting the link, because I want to do this with way more respect and somehow a bit distance in kind of storytelling. Like, I'm reporting, and I'm not like a reporter that is just holding the camera on the gore and stuff to gaining attention. It's like, hey, I'm gaining an overview information, and then you can decide what you want to pick out. And it's for me, it's I got the motivation to make good lyrics beside the gore, even if I know there is gore and death and suffering. But it's cool to be brutal or honest in another way beside gore, and yeah, that's the way I try to make the lyrics and try to transport them.
That actually, I'm kind of worried this final question we have is going to get the exact same answer, because they might be related, but we also noted that you don't swear at all on your lyrics. Is this also something you've chosen to avoid for this kind of respectful effect, or is there another reason that you haven't used words like shit or fuck very oftenly on your songs?
I think that would be made way too explicit. And we try to attach quotes to the lyrics and notes, like, for example, the memorial statues in Chernobyl got some quotes we want to transport, and somehow also we want to use this kind of language to transport the content, and not to be that harsh. Or I think
also a thing that and if you're living in Germany and you're German and you see a lot of international bands, a lot of them, especially the singers, if they do like between the songs they're talking to the people, they use the word fuck or shit in like every sentence. There's a lot of bands that do this. And that's how we are just trying to avoid this, because it sounds, to a certain point, it sounds a kind of, inflational. Is that the right word?
Like inflammatory?
Yeah. Inflammatory, okay.
No, but used too often. And every kind of band is doing this.
Yes.
So you're losing this specific character in that moment. And it's not, I think we agree that it's not the right way to transport Chernobyl theme by using shit, fuck, or something like this. But some people live, especially in the metal scene, may be demanding this or felt comfortable when the vocalist or the singer is using that words. But in our case, it's not necessary. There are different ways and way more cooler ways to interact or to announce songs.
So ironically, perhaps these quote unquote shocking words have been used so much in the scene that they no longer have much impact in a way?
Yes, I think you can create way more impact when you act less. Like if you create music, you don't have to show your skills anytime. You can make a simple riff and with a average or a slow down tempo, and to create like holding the breath right before the predator is catching the prey. So that's like you're standing back and you're loading up. And that's also a way like we act on stage. Like, okay, get ready now. There comes the explosion, like a countdown. And that's cool to interact with people, to prepare them for what will happen, not to just overflow them with notes and speed and skills and stuff. So that's also a reason why I like when we play the old songs on stage, just the simple stuff. And I hope we will keep this to the set, because that's the way I am just gaining access to the music. And somehow it's, especially when there is some atmosphere with the people maybe are drunk a bit, it's maybe positive to keep it simple and just easy, keep the energy flow. Yeah, that's also cool live.
Awesome. I think that's about thank you very much. This was fascinating. This was really interesting for us. We really appreciate all your time.
Yeah, it's so different to other interviews we've done, so it was really great talking to you.
Yeah, same for us. We haven't really talked about the lyrics before in any interview before. It was always about music, so it's a new experience for us too. It was cool.
So I'm glad we made this. Wish you all the best for your project. So keep us updated about this. And it felt cool to be a part of this. So all the best. And I have to say, I really appreciate your interest in this lyrics general, because it feels like it's a payoff for me, because all the time, all the hours we take, and so it's cool to talk about it in a serious way about the lyrics. So I have to say thank you as well, and all the best for your project. And
we should just before you go, we should give you the opportunity if there's anything that you want to promote as well.
Sorry.
Please.
Thank you for whoever watched this and getting an interest and support for the music, and especially in those hard times for the musicians. Please keep supporting music and death metal music, Chernobyl, never forget. And hope to see you all live. And someday we'll create Circle Plutonium again. And keep going, and all the best for all of you guys.
Yeah, and however, if you want to support the band, you can visit www.cytotoxin.de, and there you find a shop. You can order our merch. We ship worldwide, if you want.
And we pack the parcels by ourselves.
Wow.
With passion and all the sweat. It's all ours.
That's awesome. Yeah, we'll put the link in our episode description so people can really easily find it then.
So
I highly appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, and have a wonderful holiday season.
Yeah.
Stay in touch. All the best to you. See you.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Lingua Brutalica. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope you stay tuned for our next episode. Before we leave, we just wanted to acknowledge that this podcast is recorded on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging.